everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. Today I'm going to be showcasing the brand new Tim Holtz Mr. Rabbit stamp set and our Simon Says Stamp Mr. Rabbit coordinating die set that works perfectly with the Tim Holtz stamps. This spectacular stamp set features a super detailed bunny and some great accent stamps to go with it. Images such as distressed plaids, some fun ephemera stamps, and even a polka dot pattern. Our Simon Says Stamp Mr. Rabbit dies perfectly cut out not only the outline of the bunny, but we've also included some detail dies that you can use to cut out the coat and also the bow tie. And these pieces you could pop up with some foam tape to get a dimensional image, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. So we're going to make a card using Mr. Rabbit, and I'm going to show you what I did. I started first by stamping the image with intense black ink from Simon Says Stamp. You can use any ink you'd like, but I do want a black image because I'm going to Copic color over this, and the intense black ink is perfect for Copic coloring. But check out the detail of this stamp. The beautiful storybook style of this image is just spectacular. And this is a really nice size image that will fit perfectly on not just an A2 card, but also a 5x7, which is what I'm creating today. Now, in addition to stamping the bunny himself, I'm also going to stamp his coat. And I'm going to stamp this as well with the intense black ink because I want to cut his coat and bow tie out with the coordinating dies. So off camera, I've cut out the bunny, and you can see we have our bunny outline and the two pieces of his coat, as well as the bow tie. So now we're going to work on some coloring. I'm going to use Copic markers like I mentioned, and I thought I would use some light E markers to color in the body of the bunny. I was going for a warm color palette here, so I thought the warm brown markers would look nice. You could also color him to be a gray color. I also used another light E marker to color in the white areas just to add some warmth to those as well. A little bit of blush to his cheeks and his ears. And I'm keeping the coloring pretty simple because this image is super detailed. A lot of the shading is really being simulated by those sketchy lines of the stamp itself, which really made the coloring super simple. Now, if you're interested in any of the products that I'm using today, including the markers and the stamps, the dies, everything that I've used today in this project, you can find it all linked below in the video description and on our blog. Now, when I'm coloring the bunny's coat and also his bow tie, because I already have these as pieces that I'm going to glue on top, I'm still coloring underneath because I want to be able to see that same color underneath the pieces that are layered on top, so that way it just looks seamless. You wouldn't want to have that bright white paper showing underneath. In my opinion, I feel like it makes a really nice seamless look when you've got the coloring on both the popped up dimensional piece and also the layer underneath. So to pop my coat and also bow tie up off of my card project, I am using our Simon Says Stamp 3D foam squares. These are the smaller squares, and I'm going to use those behind each of my pieces. And this gives this bunny a really cool 3D look, which are really made possible by our Simon Says Stamp Mr. Rabbit dies. Now, Mr. Rabbit looks so cool as is, but I thought it'd be fun to add a hat to him and give him a little bit more of a dapper appearance, so I'm pulling out this die set from Tim Holtz. This is his tailored die set, and I've cut it from some Nina Desert Storm cardstock. I'm going to glue the pieces that form the base of the hat together with some Simon Says Stamp Craft tacky glue. That'll form the dimension on the hat, and then I'm going to use some Copic markers to just add some shading. You could use ink if you'd like, but I thought it'd be fun to do a little bit of Copic coloring on these. So I picked out some darker E40 markers, and I'm going to shade that in. And then to allow the hat to match with the rest of my card, I am going to use some orange to color in the band on the hat. So I glue that down first, and then I'll take my orange markers that I used to color in the bow tie, and I'll go ahead and add that shading to the band. That's going to give me this really nice little hat that looks super cool. I'll glue it down onto my bunny, and then to make it match and really tie in with the style of this Mr. Rabbit, I'm going to actually use a black pen to add some sketchy lines. And this is very forgiving. You don't have to make this perfect. I just went through and kind of scribbled onto the hat with some sketchy lines just to create that same look on the rabbit himself. And that tied everything in and makes it look as if this hat was originally meant for this bunny. Okay, so we're ready to start working on putting our card together. I've pulled out some of Tim Holtz's worn wallpaper scraps, and I'm going to use this sheet here, which is gorgeous. I do want to add a little bit of stamping to this though, using some of the images that are included in the Mr. Rabbit set just to give it some interest. So I pulled out my Misty and I've cut this panel down to be just smaller than a 5x7 card, and I'm going to start stamping on it with some walnut stain distress ink. And I am feathering it out with a blending brush before stamping it onto my paper. That's going to give me a distressed look as I stamp these ephemera pieces onto the card project. And that I'm going to stamp in 2 different places just to balance it a little bit. And then I also brought in some of our Simon Says Stamp Latte ink and the polka dot pattern, and I'm going to add some of those polka dots around my card project. And I went freehand with this with a block because I don't want them to be perfect. I want them to look distressed, and so by using the clear block and the stamp, I can get that more imperfect stamping, which I think looks really cool and very authentic. I'm going to pop the bunny up into the middle portion of this card project. I'm using some Simon Says Stamp 3D foam squares to attach that as well. And then I pulled in some of those wallpaper scraps, and I'm going to use those in 2 corners of my card project to frame the bunny up. For additional accents, I thought I would use this little egg die from the Bunny Stitch die collection from Tim Holtz. And as you can see, I've already die cut the egg 3 times from 3 different colors of cardstock. I'm going to use Faded Jeans, Wild Honey, and Rainbow Splash Ballet ink to go ahead and ink blend on top of these eggs, so that way it gives them a little bit of shading. I thought this would add a really nice touch of that Easter feel to the card project. So I'm going to not only ink blend on these eggs to give them that shaded look, but I also want to stamp on them. So what I'm going to do is, after ink blending, I'm going to take those same inks and I'm going to go through each of the eggs and stamp that polka dot pattern on top. That's going to give me a really cool texture to these eggs. You can see the pink one and the blue one I've just done here. This is going to add some interest to these eggs. And honestly, I feel like it adds to that vintage feel, ties in more of those polka dots, which I think is a lot of fun. So now we're ready to add a sentiment, and I thought I would use some VersaFine Clair ink on that Nina Desert Storm cardstock to stamp this Happy Easter sentiment that I pulled from one of our Simon Says stamp sets called COTTONTAIL Wishes. This is the stamp set that I'm using. It's super cute, features a lot of great bunnies, but I loved the font of this Happy Easter. I thought it was very nostalgic and would go really well with Mr. Rabbit. So I'm going to glue that straight down on top of Mr. Rabbit, and then finally I can pop my card panel onto a 5x7 card base, which I made from some ivory cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. So it's not quite bright white, it's a little softer, which I think ties nicely together with this vintage feel of the card. And for a little bit of texture, I did add a bit of twine around the side of the card. This is a side folding card, so I just wrapped it around the whole entire front panel of this card base. And that added the perfect finishing touch to this project that I think really ties in all of that warmth and vintage vibes that I've got going on here. So this stamp set is just so much fun to work with. It is perfect for not just Easter. You could use Mr. Rabbit for anything. I almost put a birthday hat on Mr. Rabbit using one of Tim's die sets. So you could decorate him however you want and use him for other fun card projects besides just spring and Easter. So this is the Mr. Rabbit stamp set and also our Simon Says Stamp Mr. Rabbit dies that work with the stamps. This is a great combo of products that you can use to make amazing projects, not just cards, but mixed media. And I hope that you were inspired by the ideas that I've shared today to create this card project. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And also don't forget to head over to our Simon Says Stamp store so that you can purchase Mr. Rabbit for yourself. And also you can find all the other supplies that I used today linked below in the video description as well. Thanks so much for tuning in today, friends. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.
I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.